I wanted to start with the state's finances. We've heard the number $1.25 billion thrown around a lot, obviously the amount of money that we've gotten from the Federal CARES Act. There's the transparency portal, which I looked at earlier. It looks like close to $300 million has either been spent or is what you guys are calling encumbered. So does that mean there's just a little bit less than $1 billion that still hasn't been touched?
That's probably about right, yes. I have been cautious in not spending all of the money right away since there's so much uncertainty. I hope that Congress does the right thing. This isn't just Rhode Island. Every single state is struggling. I think there's already been over 1 million public employees, teachers laid off across the country. So it'll be brutal. It'll be very, very difficult if we don't get more federal stimulus. Having said that, because there's so much uncertainty and there's chaos in Washington, I've taken a cautious approach and held some of that money back in case we need to use it to balance the budget.
Well, not some, most of it.
A lot, yeah.
So the deficit that the state is facing is not that much money, so why not spend a little bit more?
So we will need more to continue to address the immediate needs of the crisis. So for example, a simple example is PPE. When it's all said and done, we'll spend about $98 million on PPE. But in the numbers you have, maybe half of that is only accounted for. Testing's a perfect example. When this is all over with, we'll spend close to $200 million, $150 million of the federal stimulus on testing. But at this point, maybe only a third of that has been spent. So in the end, it'll probably be closer to half that we will wind up having to spend just, meeting the immediate needs.
So you think at the end of the day you'll have about $500 million?
I think that's about right. Yes,
Okay.
I think that's about right.
Obviously, when you presented your state budget to the General Assembly at the end of January, COVID had not arrived here in Rhode Island. A lot has changed, including financially. Are you going to revise your budget and present a new version to the General Assembly before they come back in November?
Probably not. I think, first of all, we don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully, Congress between now and November will go ahead and pass another stimulus, in which case that would allow us to have a much easier time in November balancing the budget. So that's one big unknown. Otherwise, we'll have to just get together when the Assembly comes back in November and work together collaboratively to try to balance a budget and minimize the pain. I think that this will be hard. There's no way around it. We can't just cut because we have to continue to invest for the future. Having said that, this is the biggest hole that Rhode Island has really ever seen.
I wanted to talk to you about unemployment. A lot of folks are really hurting out there. My colleague Eli Sherman reported just this week that the backlog in claims has doubled what it was in August, from 2,000 to roughly 4,200 backlogged claims. It's been 7 months. These issues have been ongoing. Why can't the state get this right?
So I hear your frustration and I understand it. We have to follow the rules from the federal government, which are complicated, which isn't an excuse. It's just the constant recertification, constant paperwork required. Most of those in backlog, there's an issue with them. We had 200,000 claims, which we've processed. There are a few thousand, which is a problem. Let me say, if you're one of those people waiting on that money, we can't get it to you fast enough, and we're going to get it to you as fast as we can. But for us to fulfill the requirements of the federal government around the paperwork and the certification and the recertification, sometimes it takes a long time.
What about the call log backups, though? That's a state issue, right? I mean, they're not being able to handle all of the volume. So what steps is the state taking? It sounds like, some of the blame lies on the federal government, but a lot of it is up to the state as well. So what concrete steps is the state taking to try and fix these issues?
Yeah, we've hired more people. We did something I think is very creative. We went to folks who were retired DLT workers, so they know the systems. We brought them back. We are using new technology to move much more quickly, and we're going to continue to try to improve. I've actually looked into using the National Guard. thinking if it were a matter of manpower, we could put more bodies against it. But it turns out that if you're not specifically trained in this, it's not going to really move the process. So these systems, and by the way, this is happening all over the country. Rhode Island, believe it or not, is one of the best, because I call around to see how could we be better. These systems weren't built for this volume. Like, bottom line is, the IT systems, the software systems, the call center systems, they weren't built for this volume. This is the greatest volume since the Great Depression. And we're chunking through it. We are working shifts, we're working weekends, we're putting more people on it, we have new technology, and clearly, as you say, we have to get better, and we will.
On the topic of schools, obviously a big topic of conversation in the last couple of weeks, a statistic that stood out, I think, to a lot of people was that there are more kids in virtual learning that are testing positive for COVID than children who are inside of the school buildings.
Yes.
What do you think families should take away from that?
That it's safe to return to school, and that, unfortunately, COVID is everywhere. So throughout the summer, we had kids testing positive. You know, if you go to the grocery store, if you go to the park, if you go to work and then go home with your children, there is unfortunately a risk. So the takeaway is school is safe, and in order for us to be safe, no matter where you are, at home, in your backyard, at school, at the grocery store, at church, you have to follow the rules. If you follow the rules, wear your mask, keep a distance, stay home if you're sick, wash your hands, you will be safe, and whether that's in school or out of school.
And one question that we've heard from people who have said, you know, it points to the fact that school is safe, but you're pushing for all students to be back in school. So eventually those kids who are out there testing positive are going to be back inside the school buildings. Is that a concern?
You know, I have a lot of concerns, but here's what I know. I know kids are suffering for being out of school. That's a fact. It is a fact. Children are falling behind. They're more depressed. Suicidal ideation is up. Mental health, kids are going hungry. It's very bad for kids to be out this long. So that I know is 100% certainty. There is some risk that they will get sick in school, but we're mitigating that risk. We're taking their temperature. We're keeping the windows open. Today I was at a school in Smithfield, which was amazing what they're doing. Teaching the kids outside. Every kid has their own Frisbee. Packed in a Ziploc bag, you can't share it. Every lunch is separate. The papers and such go right in the trash. So the bottom line is, yes, there's a risk. I can't pretend there is no risk. It's about reducing the risk, and then teachers, principals, superintendents are getting that done.
I know we're getting to the end of our time, so I was hoping I could just do 3 rapid fire questions to finish. CCRI announced layoffs this week. They're facing a major budget deficit, so is the state. Yes or no, would you consider pausing or ending the Promise program?
No.
A letter grade for the first week of school.
Oh gosh, B+.
And do you support, yes or no, the extension of to-go alcohol sales at Rhode Island restaurants through the end of 2021?
2021? I think so. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
If they say it's good, you know, like if the restaurants want it, I want to do whatever helps the restaurants stay in business and survive. So if it's good for them, I'm for it.
Governor, thank you so much.
Thanks.